And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's live stream. We have a very special guest, Kirsten Moore-Towers. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to talk about Skate Canada, and I hope people are joining. Let's do some small talk. How's everybody doing?
I'm excited to be back. It was so fun last year.
Did you get to go to Halifax? I saw you were commentating, but you were doing it from home.
I was doing it from right here. Unfortunately, no in-person commentary this year. So for Skate Canada and actually for Nationals, we'll be remote as well. But I was happy to be able to see the practices and still be able to talk to some people, if not just online. So I felt like it didn't affect the work too much, but it obviously is way more exciting to be in person. But that's right.
So do you also only see what we are seeing on the live stream?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I do. And usually when you're in person, there's a screen that has the reviews coming up, and you can see kind of as the panel is thinking things over or watching things over, I can see that. So it's easier to speak to it. But when I'm from my own home, as I'm watching, I can speak to Ted during the skates when you don't hear it. And I'll say, are they reviewing that? Are they reviewing that? So it just takes a little bit more creativity. But yeah, I see pretty much what you're seeing.
Yeah. So how have you been? I feel like since we last talked to you, you've gotten married. What's been going on in your life?
Honestly, more of the same, which sometimes is great. We've been doing lots of traveling, which is super awesome. I feel really lucky. And yeah, I got married. We went on a honeymoon and then we went away again. And now I'm just teaching. We're in kind of the middle of the qualification series for my pair skaters. They go to sectionals next week. So it's exciting times for the kids that I'm teaching at the school that I work at. But it's busy in a great way. I've been doing lots of choreography and commentary, as you know. So just more of the same. All stuff I like. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we are excited to hear about your thoughts on Skate Canada and on all of the disciplines. But I feel like I went a little rant about how mad I was about pairs judging, and then I'm gonna try to calm myself down about it. But I had to
see some of your tweets about
that. I want to know it all. I'm sure people who haven't seen the tweets are very interested in that as well.
Yes.
Okay. I think we are starting with women, though.
Awesome.
Good morning. You also still have fantasy skating up in the corner.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Ellie,
thank you for reminding me. That's at the end. I'm going to take it off. Wait, how do I get that away? Just keep talking.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay. Lois, can you do the podium, please?
Oh, God. You want me to pronounce Japanese names? I'm going to screw it up.
Yes.
Okay, for gold, we have Kaori Sakamoto. In silver, we have Rino Matsuiki. And in bronze, we have Hana Yoshida.
Sounded perfect.
Yes.
It probably wasn't.
The intention was good, if it wasn't. What did you guys think?
This was unexpected, I feel like. I mean, my number one takeaway from the women's event was, wow, Rino Matsuiki's free skate was like one of the best things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Agreed. That's
coming back from 10th is insane.
Sorry, you go, Lois.
Fine. I was just saying, coming back from 10th to come second is just an insane climb.
So crazy. And her jumps are incredible and her knee and ankle action incredible. But when she did the step sequence and she did something like rocker bracket counter hold for a full circle of a beautiful outside edge and then a loop, I don't know if people know how hard that is, but it blew my mind. I thought it was so incredible and I loved her reaction. I'm such a sucker for skaters being proud of themselves and being so happy that I just was like, oh my God, give her everything. Give this girl everything. And I was so pleasantly surprised at her score, especially skating so early in the event. I loved it so much.
And I love that you're not the only person who's noticed that piece of her step sequence. Like I saw a couple of people posting GIFs of just that, like that long outside edge into the loop. And it's like something so that looks so simple, just like actually holding an edge like that. It was amazing. I went skating yesterday and I was like, I wonder what it feels like to try doing that. And I mean, knowing that of course it was going to be too hard and I wasn't going to be able to do it, but it was so inspirational. Watching her made me want to get out there and like skate and hold edges.
How cool is
Yeah.
that? And it also, I feel a bit is a testament, or not a testament, more of an homage to skating in previous decades where there was more sustained edges and held landings and held spirals. And because of the current rules, we don't see it as much, especially in free skate or in pairs. And I just thought it was so perfect. I just loved it so much. I want to watch it 800 times.
I've always been so impressed with just the way she glides across the ice. Like she it's just so satisfying to watch. Like it just looks so easy for her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was great. I also love Hana Yoshida's programs this year and her free skate. It wasn't perfect here, like, but I think it's such a smart piece of choreography for her, and just there's something really refreshing about watching her skate. And I also love her costume and just like the whole thing. It's like when I saw that program in the Challengers, I was like, this is the thing that I want to see at Worlds. With like, I hope she nails everything. I hope it has this big moment, because it's I think the way it's constructed is so smart.
And she also, I find she always buys in. Like last season, her short program was a little bit funkier, like more dance style. I don't know if you remember. It was the cuckoo something
Cuckoo
done
fun.
by done by Caitlin Weaver. And I felt like, wow, she really is. You can see that she believes in everything that she's doing, and I think that quality will take her really far in skating, because she'll be able to show us so many different facets of who she is, or who she can be, or who she wants to be, or whichever. She is not really married to one style. And I think that's so important, and kind of different than what we see from a lot of skaters a lot of times, which is great.
I was really impressed overall. Like, it was interesting watching this group of women, because even though it was overall, Reno aside, kind of a messy free skate in terms of falls and errors, I just had this strong feeling that this was a group of really all 12, but especially the top 6, of very like strong personalities and people showing us really different things and things that were sort of specific to them. And I feel like for a long time I was finding women's skating a little bit boring, because it felt like everyone was very cookie cutter, and there's things about the judging system and everything that kind of push it in that way. And I felt like much less so watching this group, and actually at Skate America as well, but really especially with this group, seeing a lot of different kinds of styles and approaches to their free skates especially.
I agree. And I'm so happy for Madeline Skizas, who it really feel, I of course know her on a personal level, and it felt like, based on no outside knowledge really of the situation, it really felt like a personal win. And I think I saw her say that in the mix zone and in her interviews, because sometimes, you see people becoming emotional at nationals or at Worlds or Olympics, things that are like a really quote unquote big deal. But for Skate Canada to pull out that reaction from you, I think it has to be because of something more. And that thought alone makes me just feel so happy for her, that obviously it wasn't perfect, but it was the most well-rounded, well-executed competition that she's done in a really long time, maybe since Olympic year. And it seemed like she needed that. So I was really, really happy for her. So
she's had 2 really good short programs back to back now. I think on the Challengers, she had a really good short program as well. So it seems like she's got that figured out now. So she can just kind of focus on nailing the free skate now.
Totally. Yeah. And I really like her free. I think it's a really good program for her. I think it's costumed well and packaged well. And I'm excited. I'm really excited for her.
I liked that it was a dance macabre that wasn't all black.
Totally.
People were criticizing her for wearing red for it. I was like, no, I feel like this is a very witchy kind of red. It gives I was buying into it.
Me too. Darker and deeper red. We don't always have to do the same thing. Always,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
there are different takes on certain concepts, and I like when we don't always play it the same way or do it because we feel like we have to, not because there's actually some kind of intention that we personally feel about it. And that, I think, has an impact also on how you perform the program when you feel strongly about why you're doing what you're doing. So,
Yeah.
my 2 cents.
I think it's interesting we had an all-Japanese podium here, and at Skate America, 2 Japanese women placed first. So it feels like a theme.
Kind of doing very well.
Yeah, they're killing it for sure.
Yeah.
And I saw lots of mixed opinions on Kaori's free program. What do you think?
I really like it. I don't know why so many people hate it. I don't think she delivered it well here. I think she seemed a bit nervous the entire competition. Even in the short program, she seemed like a bit nervous before she began the program. But I think they're really good programs for her and really good vehicles. She's just not up to her standard yet.
I love the short. I think she's doing a great job with the tango, and that it's a tango that, like, it's so many people are doing tangos this year, and so it's sort of interesting to think, like, okay, well, what are the different approaches to tangos and what kinds of ways of doing it suit different people? And I think she has this sort of very fast and fluid kind of choreography to it that seems like it works really, really well for her. So I really like the short. I'm reserving opinions on the free skate because I feel like if I get the concept, and so starting with, I loved her free skate last year. I thought she grew into it over the course of the season. And so I appreciate that she's challenging herself. And I've been wanting her to try something where, because she has such kind of like a fun personality that, like, she always skates to very, like, you know, people want to put her in very powerful music, but then she has such a, like, I don't know, like, just fun personality. Like, she's, and so, like, I like the idea of something that would give her a chance to be, like, a little sassy, put some winks into it, be kind of, like, bring out a little bit of that. So I could see the potential, but it wasn't actually happening in this program.
No,
so
yeah.
I'm like, is that because this program isn't working for her, like, concept-wise, specifics of the choreography, or just that she was, like, nervous and not having a good day? And so I kind of want to, before saying, like, scrap the program, I would like to see what it looks like when she's, like, going into it with like relaxed and confident.
Sure. I felt the same as you, Lois. I really like it. I also acknowledge that she's very in and out of it until the end. Like, at the end, when you see her smiling and still, like, kind of going with the music, I'm like, okay, there she is. Like, she can do it. I know she can do it, because you're right, Anna, she does have a fun and a playful personality. And I think, as you mentioned, I have nothing to do with Kaori Sakamoto, obviously. Her team and her choreographers always put her in these fierce, strong roles. And I freaking love that, because she's so great at it. But I also think that it's the year before the Olympics. We know what she's really good at. I think what a perfect time to try something different. And then you can know if next season it works or not. I feel like usually this is an idea that people try earlier in the quad, like the first or second year of the quad, you might try to do something totally different. And I get what people are saying when they speak to, like, ex-skater. I'm not thinking of anyone in particular, but they say, like, oh, they always put this skater in a certain style, and I think she's so strong and fierce and she should do this style. But we've seen Kaori do that. We know she excels at it. She's incredible. So I like the idea that we try this and see, it's not we, it's not a we, that they try this and see. And for that reason, I kind of hope that they stick it out at least through the first half of the season. And then obviously they know what's best for her. And if she is not vibing with it or connecting to it, then yeah, for sure you can switch back. But there are moments where I really get excited about it, kind of at the very beginning and the very end. But throughout the middle, you're right, when you're falling down on things you don't normally fall down on, it's hard to connect to your program, especially early in the season. But I hope they stick it out for a little bit longer, and then obviously make the decision
And
that's
she is like
best for her.
changing up her content and changing the layout that she from what she usually does, which is obviously probably what's throwing her off more than anything, because
Totally.
she's got such a reliable layout. I do think I applaud her for trying something different, because that is a criticism that people have had of her, that she just does the same layout every time. I do miss that big combo that she usually does. Like it's such like a moment that she puts like in the second half of the program, and I miss that because I don't think the combos that she's changed to have that power and like wow factor that she
Sure.
usually has. So maybe if she switches back to like her previous layout, maybe it will look better. But I do like that she's trying something different.
Yeah, I have no problem with her doing the same combo, the same jumps in the same order throughout her program every year. Like, and in general, that is not something that bothers me. I'm like, if this works for people, like, I get, maybe you want to try to up your difficulty over time, but like, I feel like if you find a rhythm that works for you, that's fine. Then so then be creative in other parts of your program, and it won't look the same every year. So like, that's not something that I tend to be bothered by, and I do miss that the impact of having the triple at the end. It's such a great moment. I really felt like that at Worlds last year, seeing the way she just was able to like conclude that program and make you want to sort of leap to your feet with excitement with it was so cool.
And putting 2 Lutzes for Kaori is a little bit risky. She didn't get called on anything at this competition, but she could easily get called by another panel because she does typically have a Flutz. But I get wanting to up the difficulty content, but it's a bit of a risk when you are known for not necessarily having the best technique on a jump.
Totally.
I kind of wish she was doing a Chicago medley, which is funny because I normally am always like, I wish people would just do one song and not do a medley. But I thought that a little bit more variation in the mood of the program might work for her. But that's like saying I wish she had a different program than she did, because but I don't think that like the All That Jazz is bad for her. It just, like you said, she was coming in and out of it at different points.
Totally.
But I remember she said at the beginning of last year that she was planning to do something. She wanted to do something different for every program between like up until the Olympic season, so that she had most.
I see what you mean.
Not like every competition, but like every
I was a little like I understood it as change layout every competition. I thought I get it.
But just so that way she would have as many, like when she was thinking, well, what do I want to, what's my best option for the Olympics? She would have a lot of things that she had tried to choose from, and that she was like, I fully expect not all of them are going to work for me, but if I want to have tried and know what I'm capable of before I go and make those choices, which I really appreciate, because at the time she was like, and if that means I don't, like, because this was like at the beginning of last year, she's like, and if that means I don't win like Worlds this year, that's okay, because I will be like, and she did still win. But that's where I'm kind of like, we shouldn't necessarily assume that she needs to be flawless all the time, because if she has long-term goals.
Absolutely.
I also loved Alyssa. I just want to say both of her programs are so wonderful. And the MacArthur Park is really growing on me. I feel like I was like, this is interesting at first, but now I feel like she's really getting into all of the different parts of it.
Yeah, the short this was actually the first time I saw her free. I didn't get to see it at whatever challenger she did a couple weeks ago. But the short, that's right. The short, I just find so magical. I just love it so much. I love that we see her joy in her skating, which I actually did feel like I was seeing in her final World Championships right after the Olympics. But of course, I don't know her personally very well at all, so can't speak to like how she feels. I just know how it appears when she's on the ice, and it just looks like she exuberates so much joy now and kind of skates for herself. And I like that when we see footage of her in practice or interview footage, she just like truly is being who she is. And I think that's so special, and also becoming more normal in skating. But for a while it really wasn't. Like we were just told who to be, like who to emulate. And for anyone who feels comfortable enough to, or even at times brave enough to be actually who they are to their core, I think I will always applaud it and be here for it and support it. And it really appears like she's doing that, which I love so much.
Yeah, because so much of her junior career was she's the quad and triple axel American girl, like she's the rival to the Ettore squad or whatever, and
Sure.
now she's kind of shook that whole thing. She's just Alyssa now. She just gets to do what she wants and come out and be happy and skate.
Yeah.
And I thought some of the under rotation's fair. Like it wasn't a perfect skate, but she's doing amazingly well for having been off for 2 years.
Yes.
But I have full confidence that she's like on the upward trajectory here. I did find it frustrating that her component scores are lower now than they were 2 years ago, when her components are much better than they were 2 years ago, because it seems like one of those, it's not so
You've
much
been gone
where
with,
they are now.
you're going to have to build yourself back up again.
It just shows you how much components are based on reputation and where you are in the rankings and what kinds of jumps you're doing and all these things that should not actually be impacting your components. So I find that frustrating from the judging perspective, but all the way through, I could see the improvements that she was trying to make. Like I remember seeing her, on the Junior Grand Prix, and then watching her as a senior, that she was always really trying to grow her skating, and it was clear that it was always clear that she enjoyed skating for like the sake of skating and not just for the jumps. But now you can really see it, and the choreography was working for her, and so I hope that does not take longer to get recognized where it should be.
Yeah, second competition out, I feel like sometimes you just really have to, as we all know, like continue to go out and show, and just like keep showing what you can do, and I believe it will be rewarded. But for her at this time, I feel everything is so intentional, especially in the short. Like every movement has a meaning, and I feel it, and I know that she believes it. Was it Massimo that did this?
Yeah.
The beginning is so I think is so incredible how she's like using the slower parts of the movement and then like fast, picking out the other nuances or the sharper nuances. I just think it's incredible. I just love it so much.
Between his work for Alyssa this year and for the Finnish dance teams, I want to give a shout out to Massimo Scali for doing some excellent work this year.
Yes.
Snaps. I haven't seen the Finnish dance team yet, but I will, now that you told me that.
He also does a lot of work with Matteo Rizzo as well, doesn't he?
Yes.
As well.
So,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. He made the short program to Dernier Dance that was really fun and interesting, and then Matteo decided it was too hard.
Matteo was like, it's too hard, I'm getting rid of this.
I loved that program.
Yes.
I loved that it was a male competitor doing it also. I just thought it was incredible. I loved it so much. I was sad he got rid of that. Anyway, I digress.
I don't want to interrupt this very interesting conversation, but looking at the time, we might need to move on to the next category. However, if anybody you want to highlight, please do it now.
Kimmy. I'm just going to say Kimmy's short program especially was great. And
I love her short.
I really like what she's bringing this season too.
And I feel very sorry for her that she lost out on the bronze by a time violation. I know she was devastated about that.
It's so sad. That was really harsh to watch. Bigger and better things. It's all good.
Yes.
Okay. If we are done with women,
I like Kaya Reuter's short program. Sorry,
yes.
that last thought.
No, keep them coming. I think it's important.
Yes,
to highlight
I agree.
Okay. All right, done.
Okay, men. Okay, in first place we have Ilya Malinin, in second place Shun Sato, and in third Jun Wansha. That's the podium. Okay, let me quickly pull up Amy's comment. I don't know if we mentioned Tanatem and Oblak before I joined, but I love that. Just wanted to add that as well.
Yeah, I like that program too.
Okay, and now I'm gonna change to the men, and please continue talking about the men.
Yeah, this was an interesting men's competition, a very messy men's competition, as we might expect, come to expect. But yeah, did anyone have a clean program? I'm pretty sure everyone made some mistake in their free skate.
Yeah. I admittedly, this was the event that I watched the least of. I had stuff going on, so I tried to rewatch some this morning, especially at the top, but I will have less to say about this event than the others. I was sad for Roman that he had to withdraw, excuse me. It just feels like this guy just can't catch a break.
I know.
If it's
not,
sorry, go ahead.
If it's not equipment, then it's injury. It's one thing after another.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw that he wasn't jumping in the first couple of practices. I don't know how much I am allowed to say publicly, but obviously not jumping for 2 practices can draw kind of your own conclusions from that. And I know it was like pretty recent and close to the competition that he started struggling. So that's just such a bummer. It's just such a huge bummer for him. Especially in a year when Canadian men, I think like this year and last year, we saw the national competition amongst the men really kind of up in the air. And obviously this World Championships is extremely important, and the selection committee is going to want as much data as possible to figure out who the best candidate is to send to Worlds, to really try to make a push for as many spots as possible for next season. And just sucks major.
No. It was really hard to see, like, with all of the 3 Canadian men, and for Roman to have the injury and have to withdraw. Steven had this great short program and then not the free skate. And it was, Alexa did not have a perfect competition by any means, and ended up, coming in the top of those 3, which was probably not what anyone would have assumed going in either. So it's like, and then Wesley had a tough Skate America, and so just like watching all of them, it's like there's an opportunity here for someone to step up.
I will say though, from a Steven perspective, I was super thrilled that he obviously did a fantastic short, and I thought he was costumed well, and I thought he was choreographed very well. I liked the concept of his program, and I felt like in the free, though kind of marred with error, I felt like the attempts kept happening, like he kept trying. He fell really hard on a downgraded triple axel, but the attempts were there. Whereas last season, I felt like we saw him, and I am in no way insinuating that he was not trying last season. Please make no mistake, that is not what I'm saying. But we saw a number of short programs where he was opening up on everything, or, long programs where there wasn't a lot of rotation. I don't want to say effort, because you never try. You're not trying to pop, but just felt like in terms of what we had seen last season, it was more there. And I'm hopeful that being like maybe a little bit more settled in Canada and not kind of going back and forth, hopefully we can see the continuous growth and maybe more well-rounded competitions moving forward. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and hopefully, I know he's been suffering with a back injury for quite a long time now. I'm hoping it's progressing and getting better, and hopefully not like relapsing and continuously troubling him.
Totally, because that back injury, I mean, all injuries are terrible, but back just feels like, if ever I had a back thing, it just feels like it inhibits everything that you're trying to do. Like nothing feels comfortable, and obviously we don't wish that on anyone. And Alexa, as you mentioned, not a perfect competition, but I think for him, where he's at in his career, pretty good. I don't know that he could have asked for a lot more than that, and he obviously was in one of those 3, I think, men in 2022. Yeah, and I think if he got 2023, he would have moved up considerably.
Oh yeah,
right. So
I actually
mean,
think he should have been further ahead as well, because I felt like,
Mhm.
especially with Frangipani, while Frangipani is probably a more well-rounded skater, the landings on a lot of his jumps were very messy. I just felt
Mhm.
like Alexa delivered better on the day and was probably just a little bit underscored.
yeah, that's all right. But he a good start. I think he should be happy with that. I feel,
Yeah.
personally.
The skater that I felt the most impressed with here was June. I think that this free skate is really growing on, like he's growing into it and getting the kind of comfort with it that lets him be a little bit edgy with it, which I really appreciate because I had such strong associations with this music with Shoma Uno and Shoma's sort of like there's always like that like slight sense of danger of like slightly wonky technique or like slightly on, you know, like which like amazing skater, but having that like feeling where I was like, this can't just be skated in a like normal, clean, precise way. You have to sort of like make us feel like you're on the edge of being a little bit crazy. And I felt like June was starting to get there. Maybe it was just I'm now starting to see this program for its own sake, but I was impressed with it and seeing the improvement since the Challenger and or Shanghai Trophy, I guess is where I saw it before. But yeah, I was impressed there, and I did agree with the people who were pointing out his PCS being underscored. I did think both him and Shun should have been higher than they were here.
Yeah.
I also really associated Skate Canada with June with last year, and last year was just such a tough Skate Canada for him that I was really happy. And sometimes that, not always, but sometimes that can be like a little demon, you know, if you really had a tough competition at X place the year before, that can affect you. I don't know if he feels any kind of way about that, but I was really happy for him that we saw more of a superb June that we're used to seeing. And I always like his program and his skating. I think he brings something really unique to the men's event. And I would agree with that.
I was screaming at him to put another combo in though. I was like, no, you've already done two. Put another one on. I know he had to like change his format because usually he'd like start with a combo in the first like few jumps and couldn't put a combo on the last, so he had to like move his combos to later in the program. I was like, no, just put a double toe on something. Just put a double toe on something at the end.
Shun, on the other hand, was very smart about being able to figure that out. Yes.
Amy has a very long comment about that. And Shun is a math genius.
Yes. So much of it is just math. If you mess up in your program content, so much of it is just quick math trying to figure out how I can maximize the points.
I guess that's an advantage of singles. Like ice dancers and pairs can't really do that.
And we will talk about it, but Kelly
there is a pair that did do that.
Sure.
It didn't really help them too much in the standings, but there is a pair that did do that.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I feel too? And I don't know how relevant this is in the men discipline because they obviously do so many jumps and so many difficult jumps. But sometimes I feel like people who are very consistent practice skaters don't have the same practice of doing the math genius things. And I am not insinuating that Shun misses a lot in practice. I don't know. I don't see him in training. But personally, I used to feel like I was a very competitive practice skater. Unfortunately, not always a very competitive competition skater, which is like so not the way you want to do things. But I used to sometimes feel not envious, that's the wrong word, but when I would see my peers in the discipline who were a little bit more inconsistent, maybe on the jumping, I used to feel like they get so much more practice than me of trying to do a throw when you've missed a jump, because I almost never miss it in practice, you know? And again, that feels like tooting my own horn. It's not. I miss it a lot in competition, but I wonder if that is the case sometimes for some of these free skaters who are very consistent and reliable practice skaters, and they don't have the mileage of figuring out the math. I don't know.
You know, we actually were talking about this a little bit last week with Valentina Plazas saying that she was noticing, or that some of the dance teams that they train with in Michigan will practice falling and getting up and continuing their program
No
because
way.
it's so unusual to fall for them that they but that they will, if they've been doing clean run throughs, will actually have a coach yell like fall, and
That
they'll have
is
to practice
so
it.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And she was like,
'Cause you have to learn
Yeah.
to get up quickly and get back into the program and find
Totally.
where you were so fast.
And you know what that reminds me of is actually, I don't know if you watched, I mean, you guys definitely watched Canadian Nationals last year, but we had somebody who needed the 3-minute, Anthony Paradis needed to take
Oh, yeah.
his 3 minutes. And I said to his coaches, wow, that was so incredible how, you know, he was able to figure that out so quickly and know exactly what needed to be done. And they told me that they practice that once every summer. It's the day that you're going to stop and untie your skate and tie it back up again. And the skaters think it's really fun. It's like a cool way to throw something interesting into a training run. But I found that to be really fascinating and benefited Anthony in this case because he knew exactly what needed to be done. Sorry to get off topic,
Yeah.
but that's what that reminds me of. If you're practicing
Really cool.
falling, that is very cool.
there's a whole theory around coaching that's like, I'm gonna butcher this explanation, but it's like constraints-led coaching, I think is the idea. But it's like basically one of the principles is to try to train under a lot of different circumstances, like and so to not make like perfect consistency your goal, because perfect consistency then means you're not as ready to deal with, like, the world is not going to be perfectly consistent. So your goal is to try to, maybe you had a, you can still land your jump even if you have had weird takeoffs, even if suddenly there was noise in the background, and so like trying to create different environments. So I don't know, like, I think that there's definitely something to be said for that in terms of skaters who are able to respond to when things go wrong.
And adapt. Adaptability is so important in figure skating. Not my strength, but it is so important.
I also want to give a shout out to Soda here, who I think, he was very close to the podium, and I really like his free skate a lot this year. I think I said this on our Challengers stream, but sometimes I feel like he has this, he's a little bit more controlled and introverted as a skater, and so sometimes I feel like he doesn't stand out, but I feel like this free skate really makes the most of his strong qualities, and so I've been enjoying it a lot.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about Ilya last week, but I want to know, what do you think about Ilya's programs and approach this year, Kirsten?
Congratulations for the Grand Prix final.
Yes.
2 wins already.
You know what? I really appreciate Ilya's growth in his second mark. I didn't see the show last week, admittedly. I'd like to watch it because I'm interested in Valentina and Max, and of course all of your input, but I did not see what you said. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I know that for someone who is technically so proficient and also has been so focused on the technical side, it obviously is not the most beautiful or well executed skating skills or composition, but I just have to commend him for how much he has worked on it. And for me, that is very obvious and evident. I also know that in a lot of men, at least kind of that I see on the daily basis, of course, not near the level of Ilya, but it's so common to edit out choreography pieces to focus on the jumps. And I don't want to throw Wesley under the bus, but last week watching his program, he has a beautiful program by Shaylin Bourne, and I was like, where's the stuff? Like, where did all this stuff go? And so sorry, Wesley, I'm such a Wesley fan, obviously, but I think we see that so often because these men are doing such incredibly difficult technical elements. And I just have to commend Ilya. I don't know what his programs look like in person, but it doesn't appear that he's editing things out. It feels to me like he's focusing on that. And I also do not hate the backflip. I know that there's a lot of controversy on backflips. It works. here.
Mhm.
Makes sense
Yeah.
to me. I don't feel scared when I watch it. I don't think everybody should do a backflip. I think it should
No,
be
yeah.
intentional and on music. And I've heard that Adams is also intentional and musical. I haven't seen it yet, but I like it. In this case,
I'm not a fan of Adams in the short program. I know it's to a lyric that makes it make sense, but I don't think you should be doing a backflip to SOS.
Okay.
Whatever it's called.
Yeah,
I don't think that works like musically. I know it's to a lyric that says like when the world turns upside down or whatever it is, but like
but I don't speak French, so I don't know that, so it just sounds
exactly awesome. Somebody had to like say that, and I'm like, I don't agree. Don't do it.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter too. That's how I knew that was a thing. But again, haven't seen it. In Ilya's case, I feel personally that it works. I like it. I prefer Ilya's short to his free.
Yeah.
I think like the running and the step sequence, I buy it. I like it. He's sold me on it. So yeah, I just want to, because I think sometimes not this demographic or this group of people, but I think sometimes the general public doesn't give a lot of credit to those who the second side doesn't necessarily come naturally to. Some people are born with an innate ability to just excel in that side, and Ilya was very obviously born with an innate ability to rotate and he's learned such technical proficiency. But I don't think that second side has come easy for him. And though it's not the best in the field, in the world for sure, but I feel that strongly that I need to commend the effort that has very obviously been made.
Yeah. And I think, especially in this competition, people who just like think Ilya might be just like going backwards and forwards and doing the jumps, that's not what he's doing, especially when you can have like a direct comparison to, say, Vladimir Litvintsev, who literally was just skating backwards and forwards and doing the jumps.
Yeah.
And that's like, I heard his like coach say that he was like very jet lagged and everything, so they probably took a whole lot of stuff out, but that very much was the lack of PCS and the just skating backwards and forwards, jump to jump, and that's not what Ilya is doing.
No.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the complaints and come when we talk about relative judging, which is something that is, I think, really hard to does not reflect on the skater themselves. That's about the judge, and it's also not necessarily even how the judges are thinking. But when you look at it as a fan, you're like, how does this person get scored higher than this person, or and that kind of thing. That's ideally you'd like there to be some kind of a standard that they're measuring against, but it's hard because they're not being asked to rank, they're being asked to give a score, and then I don't know, it doesn't quite. I won't go off anymore about the problems in the judging system, but I do understand why people are frustrated with Ilya's scores, and at the same time, I completely agree that he is making big improvements and that he's not bad in that category at all. It's just that when he gets the highest scores also for PCS, it can start to feel like, what is anybody else supposed to do, in this field?
Totally.
That's not a knock against him at all.
No, I think these things can exist at the same time, and I'm not saying that I think his components should be the highest, as you know. I just commend the effort, but I also feel like it can be discouraging for others around when beating Ilya in tech is going to be close to impossible, but there is a way to beat him in components, in my opinion.
I like Ilya's backflip much more than I like Jason's cartwheel. So
I was about to mention Jason. How do you know that? Before we move on, I want you to talk about him.
Yeah, I agree about the cartwheel. I think I like this one-handed. I think that makes it cooler and different. But I think this program, though, I know was not skated very well. I'm referring to the free program, or not jumped very well, I should say, which obviously has an effect on how you skate the program and the composition of the program. But I love it so much, and I think it takes a very special kind of skater to skate to this music and make it feel interesting and innovative. I also admittedly would watch Jason skate to anything, but I do really like this, and I think that the strategy behind choosing it is that no one else could do it, or very few other male skaters in this field
Mhm.
could do it and make it special. And for me, it is
Yeah.
special when done well.
Yeah.
I do want to mention to the podcast listeners, Anna's face was very surprised.
So I'm having a hard time with Jason's programs this season, and I think it's because he's such an amazing skater that I have high standards for him and the kinds of programs he does, and I want him to be doing programs that, like you said, that no one else can be doing. And so from that perspective, I do appreciate that he's choosing something that is so challenging. I think that this music is too hard and too all one note for a free skate. And that is for a free skate where you also have to do the jumps and the regular elements and you have to put things in there, because I was thinking that I would like to see a version of this that it has, long held spirals and long, and just, I could watch Jason skate to this music for 10 minutes with no jumps, and I would be interested. And at the same time, for a competitive program, and maybe it's just because I'm comparing this to Shoma last year, but I thought it worked much better when you had the contrast between the sort of faster paced music for half of it and then this slow, because then you kind of appreciate that pulling into the slow. So I think I'm overly harsh on both of Jason's programs this year because I really want to love what he's doing and I don't quite love these programs. And so then I'm like, but you have such amazing skill. I want it to be something that I'm that excited about. So maybe it will, with a day when the jumps were working, then maybe I would like it more. But I do struggle with, like I said, I felt like the cartwheel and the split jump did not feel musical to me, and I expect that kind of musicality from Jason with his choreo elements. And so I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch this a few more times and see what I think about it over time.
No, that's fair. It's totally fair. And the music is very kind of one note-esque throughout. I think what I like about that is I don't know what the story is, which intrigues me a little bit. I don't know what the story is, but I kind of feel like I don't have to. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah.
I think that in terms of being impactful, he could choose something different that would definitely be more impactful to a wider audience. It could also be that I'm biased. I just really like his skating. I didn't like the short as much, I will say. But anyway, I just found the quiet pieces of the free effective personally.
Okay. And Daniel's making a good point. He's saying the programs may look very different by January, and they might.
Yeah. I am getting slightly concerned about the American men under Ilya and the build up to the Olympics in terms of technical content and consistency. It's getting slightly concerning in a way that, say, like US women or maybe pairs aren't and even ice dance aren't in the same way concerning for America. But I'm getting a bit concerned about the men.
Yeah, it does feel different if you can trust that Jason's going to land in the top 10 at a world championships. That feels different than if we start to worry about his triples and that maybe he won't. But I don't want to assume that like this is this is a pattern and is dangerous. It could just be he's not usually ready for competition at this time in the season.
I mean, he is. From his quotes, it seems like he's very aware that he needs to work on his rotations.
Yeah, it's a good point that it's early. I wasn't really thinking about that too much, but he's usually doing so many shows throughout the fall that he's just getting so many reps, often on competition programs. So good point.
Yeah. And I think we should move on to the next category now, unless there's anybody else you want to mention.
No,
highlight. Okay. And the pairs event. Woohoo! Anna, would you like?
Okay, so my overall take on this pairs event was that.
Please do podium first.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
You're good.
starting. Okay, so gold, Diana Stellato and Maxime Deschamps. Silver was Ekaterina Gainish and Dmitry Chigurev. And then bronze was Anastasia Golubeva and Hector Giotopoulos-Moore. So first off, I will say congratulations for the first ever, first ever pairs medals for Australia and Uzbekistan on
First
Grand Prix.
ever
So
medal
that's
for
exciting.
Australia. First pairs medal for Uzbekistan.
Nice. I had a lot. Sorry.
I know it's coming. I'm ready.
I had a lot of opinions about this pairs event because so many of the teams there are teams that I really, really like and that I have watched improve a lot this year. And I felt like some of those improvements, especially in the PCS, were not getting reflected. And then watching, and I'm going to preface this by saying I actually quite like this Uzbek/Russian team. I think they're really talented, and I actually thought their short program was really choreographically interesting. I thought that even though their elements were deserving of high GOE, that their skating skills are not as good as the majority of the other teams there. They still look kind of juniorish, and I felt this way when I saw them in person in New York, and that I thought they were getting overmarked in that regard significantly, as well as on the performance. And so that was hard to see when then teams that I really love and appreciate, such as the Dutch team, the Polish team, Emily and Spencer, some of these teams that I can see are putting a huge effort into their choreography and their performance and their emotional commitment to that performance, are not getting it. And I was really watching this with Daria and Michelle because they're, I know last year they were really disappointed that they were being scored so low on the PCS and kind of felt like the judges, I was like, Michelle was like, the judges going to have it out for me on this. And I was like, okay, like that's probably not a helpful frame to have in your mind, but they clearly went back and especially with this short program, really tried to improve in that area. And so to see them getting the same kinds of marks that they did before is, I mean, maybe it'll take some time for that to go through to the judges, but I was disappointed in where they were being scored on this. I thought their free skate, they were missing all of the like beats of the music, so I was not so mad about it with the free skate, but with the short program, I thought they were doing such a great job of skating to the music and making it be interesting. So that's my rant. Yet again, third category that I'm going to say PCS is really annoying me right now, and I'm going to have to like calm myself down about this before I go back to watching like the rest of the Grand Prix, or I'm just going to keep getting angry because it's going to keep happening.
It's not worth
the
it.
Judging system.
Yeah, I will. I mean, you're talking about the Dutch team. I will say I also spoke to them before the event to get some insight on where they're at, why they didn't do Nebelhorn, what I could provide to the audience on the stream. And Michelle mentioned to me as well that they're trying not to think about scores this year because last year they found themselves really disappointed very often because they felt like they should be in that upper bracket with their scores that they weren't getting into. The short, I really like. They're talking about how it's a different style for them. I don't know why they've not really gone to it sooner. I mean, they're a couple off the ice. Like it makes sense to me that you portray that sort of lyrical or intimate story. And I thought they did it very well in the short.
That leap into his arms, I thought was so nice. Like that.
The wet, sorry?
There's a moment where she's kind of like leaps into his arms, and it was like it was really cool to see that.
I found the short to be really special. The free is recycled from last season. It's not my favorite. I know like we love Fleetwood Mac, but I find it a difficult piece to skate to and a difficult piece to be impactful and intentional with your movements. And I think that there is a more strategic choice for them to get themselves in that kind of upper group of scoring. But the missed lift in the free obviously impacted their score hugely. I know we're talking about components and that's a little different, but I saw it right away. And I asked Ted, because as we mentioned, I didn't have this stuff in front of me, but I said, Ted, are they going to review that lift? And he said, yes. And then when we were walking through the replays, I was just trying to say, like, okay, look at his arm. Like, when the arm bends, the lift is over. The technical panel will have to decide if he's done a full rev. And Ted said, it's in at a 0. And I don't know if they knew that. So when they got the score, they were really disappointed. And of course, that at a level 4 with no grade of execution is 7 points. That's a lot of points on a 112 becoming a 120. I think they may have been more accepting of that score. And it would have been a fair score in my opinion. But I do believe the short should have had, or has the potential to have, the program components through it if they keep skating it well throughout the season. And skating cleanly is really going to help them with that. Like, we know with the major errors, the judges can't go above X amount on kind of any kind of quality marks that they're giving. And I totally empathize with that frustration, but I do think that cleaning that up will be helpful. And we saw them kind of land jumps for the first time in the free. Like, both, I was like clapping, good for you, let's do stuff. And I really like, they're such nice people and I really like them. But when we look at the stuff they've skated to, like the Friends soundtrack, which was super fun to be on a practice with, I will say super fun. Hunger Games, like I do think that there are more strategic choices, and I think the short is a great choice, and I hope that they make more of those great choices.
I also think when you can make like a direct comparison, because obviously they had the same short music as Emily and Spencer.
Yes.
And I do think Dara and Michelle have a better program to that music, just because we know Emily and Spencer are not a couple and they don't exude that energy on the ice at all. So I'm not sure why they chose such like a romantic piece for the short program, because it seems like a bit of a disconnect with their partnership. But I think with that direct comparison, it very clearly looked like Dara and Michelle had the better composed program to that music.
Like Emily and Spencer have such emotional, they can be both such emotional skaters, but not to each other in that way.
Yeah.
Somebody was at the door.
We will be back with we had a doorbell and a dog. But yeah, like they are, like they can definitely like emote, especially like out to a crowd, but it's just not so much romantic towards one another.
Yeah, I thought their free skate was a better vehicle for them than their short. But I do really appreciate Emily and Spencer as skaters so much. They get on the ice and you have this sense that they really are caring about every motion that they're making, every piece of the choreography. Like, they really want to do everything with high quality. And so when you see their experience compared to previous, like, I really feel like I could tell with them that even though they haven't had much training time for a while, that the fact that they've been a team together for a number of years now, and more than a lot of the other teams that we're seeing, they were able to sort of draw on that experience when things were a little iffy to still kind of make it work. And I felt like they did a good job of showing that they should still be considered, one of the top US teams, that if they can get back to being trained and healthy, they will be competitive in that space, and sort of reinserting themselves in the conversation.
Are we talking Emily and Spencer still? I'm so sorry about that. My neighbor texted asking if we could move a car for a delivery. And then I saw him walking up and I thought, oh my God, don't do this, especially during the pairs part.
You didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying I like Emily and Spencer.
So hopefully the dogs won't bark. But I want to say, I didn't hear what you were saying about Emily and Spencer, but I found in the practice, the short program step sequence especially, to be extremely impactful. Mm-hmm. It didn't look the same on the competition day, which I think is probably indicative of early in the season, lack of training, XYZ reason. But I did speak to Spencer's mom, actually, who I know very well because Spencer and I used to train together. And she said that it's the first time in 5 years or so that he doesn't feel any pain when doing lifts or twists or throws. And
Wow.
to the comment we just saw, I think we can see that. Yeah, nothing felt
Yeah.
scary to me. I didn't think that their stamina was to the level that it will be.
Yeah.
But nothing felt like last year when, you know, we could see that he was on, at least in practice all week at Worlds, he was on 2 arms in the lifts. And then, you know, so you could see that. And now that doesn't seem to be present. I heard she had a little bit of a concussion issue, which affected the death spiral training, which we saw.
Yeah.
Kind of in the short program, it wasn't the strongest element for them, but really I'm a fan of this team. I think they bring lots of fantastic qualities, and I like the throw flip that they're doing now. It actually looks more reliable in the short than what we had seen in the past. But I will say I did not see her land a jump on practice. So I was impressed. I know that the triple toe in the free was under rotated, perhaps even downgraded. Does anyone remember?
I don't.
And the axles too, I think, were under rotated. So the planned double sow made sense to me because that is obviously still an area, maybe because of her concussion, that they are working on, I think.
Yeah, everything in the combo was under. So the toe and the axles were all under.
Yeah. But I mean, good stuff to come from them. I like the short actually more than I like the free. But I'm a fan of this team. I think they're a great team with lots of great qualities.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see them for I feel like if they can just get some training time and be healthy, like they're going to be able to climb. I'm excited for them. I feel like they had so much momentum in that post-Olympic season, but then obviously that came at the expense of like pushing through a lot of pain for Spencer. So then it made sense that they had to do the surgery, they had to do this, but I want them to get back to that place where they were in the conversation for being one of the top teams in the world. And I feel like they have that potential if they can get enough solid training.
Yeah. The US, though, I know you mentioned earlier, I think they have a lot of teams that really have excellent qualities and good potential to do well at Worlds. So I think nationals will be really exciting in the pairment for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I also want to give a shout out to the Polish team who did really well here for coming in on like no notice at all.
1 week,
first
so
Grand Prix.
crazy. And they were, when they found out they were coming to this event, they were in the middle of another event. They had just done the short at the Diamond Spin, whatever, in Poland. I think their short is so good. I like it so much. I think obviously we've seen Yulia for a number of years, but I really see in this program her like lighting up the rink. I think her smile is electric, and obviously the skating skills and the togetherness that we see with some of the other teams, this team doesn't have yet, but they're only in their second season.
Yeah.
Sense to me. But I think the short, they do this part in the step sequence where there's like repetitive sounds or words, and I just think it is choreographically so brilliant. It's Mark Pillay and Paul Dole who did it together, and I love it so much. I wish that the long had a little bit more of that within it. I just find her so special. They are special together, of course, but I find her in particular special when she emotes and presents, and I don't find the free program vehicle allows her to do that as much. So I miss that when we watch the free, but they're a very solid new team. They have great elements. They train with Minnie and Nikita, and they say that is motivating every day, which of course it would be. And so I'm excited for them.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this team keep growing. I feel like they have so much, just so much potential, and they seem like, from the little that I've talked to them, just like really nice people. They seem like they get along really well as a team, and like just it seems like a very good situation for them. And I love the end of that short program where she like finishes on his shoulder. It's just like that's the moment I'm just gonna be like, yes.
Yeah, so sweet. I love it so much. And apparently Mark Pillay told me that he is quite funny, and so he's not sure why that doesn't come out in the performances as much, but hopefully as they get more comfortable and they get a little bit more mileage, and I don't know him as well as I know her or have seen her. I obviously had competed with and against Yulia for a number of years. And I don't know if maybe because he doesn't have as much experience as she does, maybe he doesn't feel like he can be totally himself just yet. I don't know, but I like them. I think they can kind of make some moves, and their coach Nolan told me that their big goal this year is to qualify a spot for their country at Olympics, which makes total sense, and I think they're well on their way, especially with this short.
I really hope that they can make that. It would be so exciting.
Yes.
I also, just speaking about pairmen and emoting, I want to give a shout out to Robert Kunkel, who I feel like is really, really growing in that regard, because Annika is so expressive and he's always been kind of like the solid one behind her. And then seeing in their short program, they have this moment of like them both hyping up the crowd, and like even the free skate did a little bit of that too. I'm very proud of him for rising to that also, so that they're really both in that kind of energy together.
Totally. Yeah, agreed. I don't know that we've talked about the podium yet.
No, we should talk about the podium.
Yeah.
We should.
Talking about how much I love the team that came in, like, next to last
in like
short
7th.
program.
That's okay.
And skipped over talking the podium.
I will say that this event, though, had great stuff throughout. Like, usually I feel like we have 5 or 6 pretty good teams, and then a couple teams that are like very new or less experienced. But I did feel like this event as a whole had really good stuff. Also not the podium, but we did talk about thinking on your feet earlier.
Yes,
Elena
I was going
Luca,
to talk about that.
I was so impressed that
Yes.
she fell down on the first jump of their 3-jump series, which is a triple Salchow, which was a bummer because they had been going very well in practice. And then they did side-by-side triple loops, which already hard, and stepped into a single axel. And of course, that's like not a ton
because he was like
extra points. It's like 1.
Yeah, he was about to like go into the axle from the combo, and he saw that she'd fallen. He was like, "Okay, no, I'll wait." And then they obviously like had a little chat before they got to the next jump. It's like, we'll just stick a single on the end, and we'll do a combo there instead.
I just thought,
I was like, yes,
good for you. Obviously, it's like 1 extra point, or so on this triple loop, which is a hard element to begin with, and one that we saw twice in this event, but we don't often see in pair skating. And I was really impressed with them. I also was impressed that after a really tough short, obviously she fell on the second element in the free, and then went on to do kind of a lights out for them free program, which is, I cannot stress how that is infinitely harder than if she landed her first triple Salchow. It is so hard to like be a goldfish and forget and try to get your stuff back together with 2 of the best throws I've seen her do in the past couple seasons, I want to say. So I know not the podium, but I was really impressed and proud for them, and thought that was almost better learning and training than if they did it clean. And I don't believe it would have had really an effect on their placement because of how behind they were in short. So I thought that was so impressive. I was so impressed with that. Deanna and Max, we should talk about. I always kind of want to preface with them that I really hope the public knows how difficult it can be to come up with programs and concepts that live up to the expectations that not only the public, but they themselves would have set on their team last season. I felt like they really just knocked it out of the park last season, and now are trying to come up with programs that are as good or better. And I think we're seeing that like little struggle of maybe knowing that they're not quite there yet. I would be surprised if they did not go back to the short from last season. But the long too, I kind of am, I really feel like I am the skater's skater, like I want to feel it. Like, tell me what I should feel and I'll feel it, but I just, it's not quite impacting me yet. And it's not lost on me that, they missed both jumps and both throws. And the triple toe missed in a way that they haven't missed in a long time, not last season. So I know that when done cleanly, it's very possible that this program will be more effective, but they are just such a great team. And this program, these programs are not hitting me in the way that they did last year, personally.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I really want to be rooting for them and really want to be loving what they're putting out. And I'm not a fan of either of these programs this year. And I was trying to think about, what I would like them to do. And it's hard because like we just were saying with Kaori, like we don't want people to always go for the thing that's like their comfort zone. We want people to like try different things. I feel like the dynamic that between them that I have enjoyed the most is when it's whatever story they're telling, it's kind of Deanna's in charge and is like telling Max what to do. And that kind of vibe between them seems to like work really well. And even in stuff like I'm thinking like the season before with Tango and Cleopatra, there were still kind of elements of that. And then these programs, I'm not getting, like I've heard what they're talking about with the dynamic between the two of them they're trying to tell, but I'm not seeing it come across. So then it feels like I'm just sort of missing the fire of their performances from the past. But it's hard to know when technically it's not working, that of course the performance quality is not going to be as strong either. But
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I see the comment from, I believe it was Daniel, and I think absolutely most choreographers and teams will be saving their best stuff for Olympics, but it also is so important to have really good stuff this year so that they can set themselves up in a great spot. Like they've said in the media that this season is not so much of a focus as it is to put them in a good spot for next season, but having really great vehicles and concepts will be a really important part of setting that up. And they have such a superb team. Julie Marcotte is incredible and has done incredible work. And perhaps at a team camp, when I know the program went much better, the stuff I heard from them at team camp was superb. I wasn't there, but I heard from a number of people that they look incredible. So I think it is so possible that this program looks incredible when the elements are done well. And there doesn't always have to be a story, like I think we'll talk about that with Piper and Paul. There doesn't always have to be a story, but I really want to feel something. And I think the ovation comes from when you make people feel something. And the short obviously has a story and it has that potential a little bit more, but the free, I'm just kind of like, like, what do I feel? And this team, I don't think, well, for most high level athletes, I don't think anyone is as hard on them as they are hard on themselves. Right. They totally know. They know what's up. They know what's happening. Yeah. And I just, I'm sure that they will be going home and taking the notes and the feedback. And then you kind of have to decide, right? You decide what feedback you take and what feedback is not relevant to you. And with the social media era and with Twitter, there's lots of stuff that goes around, and it takes a lot of mental toughness and thick skin to pick and choose what it is. And they obviously still are such a fantastic team. And I don't know that huge changes will be required to make these programs super fantastic. Obviously, I'm on their side. I want them to do great. Yeah. I just didn't feel it this time.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. I also want to we didn't talk about the Australian team, and they did so well. I mean, I'm really excited for I keep feeling like I'm excited for their future. I mean, they're here now and doing great now, but I do still feel like they're a team that is developing like who they are and what they want to kind of say as skaters. And so I'm enjoying sort of watching them figure that out. I know people really like their Umbrellas program. I'm not as huge a fan of it, but
interesting.
Yeah,
I like the Umbrellas. I thought the short was strange.
The short,
like I get using like Muse, but like those two pieces of Muse music do not blend together and were very different vibes. It felt a bit disconnected.
Yeah, and I had read in an interview that they were really excited about it, and I always like when the skater really likes it, I want to like it too, because they feel so strongly about it. And wasn't expecting the change of music. I don't know. Like, I guess when they did it, the morning practice was really early for me, and maybe I was still half asleep. But when it changed in the competition, I was kind of like, like, what's going on here? And I like the style more of the exogenesis for them. I think they do that really well. And I really do like the umbrellas program. It seems, Anna, that you and I have different tastes in what we like, which is okay.
Maybe, yeah.
Right? Which is totally okay. But I find there are really cool aspects and elements to it, choreographed by Jonathan Guerrero. And sometimes that's the case when it's a choreographer that doesn't work with kind of like a wide array of skaters. We see really innovative and different things. Not that the Shaylin Bournes don't do that. Of course they do. But I find this team really likable, and you're right. I know they're here now, but it feels like their scope of improvement and scale of improvement will just be so vast. And I think their future is super bright. I really do feel like they're just kind of scratching the surface of what they're capable of, especially since we've seen them train things like triple toe, double toe. I think, they really do have a wide array of skills that
I realize what it is that I don't like about this program, and it's incredibly shallow of me, and it has nothing to do with the choreography. It's that she has her tights rolled down over her skates, and it adds to this sense that she never fully straightens her leg, which I'm sure she does fully straighten her leg in many places in the choreography, but it adds to, I think, me it feeling still juniorish to me. And so that's like the least important thing, like me worrying about like what their tights look like. But I realized that it was actually very much impacting how I was viewing the team. So I will admit the unfairness of that bias towards this team.
That was me with the open suit and ice dance. Every time we turned around, I was like, oh, that's missing from the ice dance.
Well, that is a part of it, right? Like, packaging is totally a part of what we're looking at. I don't like over the boot tights either, but there are things like their entry to their hair spin. It's just like cool. That is just so cool. No one else is doing that. And yeah, these are, and their choreo sequence, which has become a little bit of like a trademark for them, I feel, where he's in kind of the lunge and she's like, oh yeah, I can't do it. But it's the last move of their program if you would like to give it a rewatch. And I just find they do innovative and cool things, and have relocated to Canada with their coach to train with Deanna and Max. And they're working lots on their twist, they say. And apparently it's getting very good off of the ice. And they are just hoping to transfer all of that work onto the ice. And for someone who could never quite figure out the twist, not for lack of trying, I really appreciate that work that they're putting in. And I agree with you, Anna. I think they truly have a bright future, and there's just so much to like about that team.
Yeah.
Uzbekistan. Oh.
No, you can talk about that first.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about the other.
We talk about that later.
The Uzbekistan, I mean, they come from Nina Moser, who we haven't seen for a long time. Nina Moser, the coach, of course, of Voloshajar and Trenkov, who are Olympic champions, Klimov and Stolbova, who are Olympic silver medalists. Like in that 2014 era, kind of most Russian pair skaters were with either Nina Moser or Tamara Moskvina. And I hadn't seen Nina in a long time. I didn't even know if she was still coaching. And this team definitely excels in those high-flying pair elements. Their twist is incredible. Throws are great. Not as good maybe as some of their other things, but side-by-side jumps are very reliable and very close together. I didn't quite get the programs, and I was with you, Anna, that I just felt, and at the top of when we started talking about pairs before I had that huge interruption, I was looking at the sheets to see kind of where they were in components, and I believe they were second in the free. Art is subjective. Skating skills really aren't objective. But I can understand how a beautiful, clean program can impact the quality and the composition of the program, which is a part of program components and that second mark. But that part of their performances wasn't my favorite, I will say.
Yeah, I liked, and this may be just because they're, they're training in an environment where they haven't been, competing with the rest of these teams. And I just want to preface, I feel like people have strong opinions about whether the teams that trained in Russia or switched from Russia and all of this, and those coaches should be competing during this. And so I kind of want to acknowledge that I think there's valid questions about where we draw all of those lines, and also, if we're going to draw those lines, where are we also then going to be harsh on the Dutch team or Minerva and Nikita for training with a Russian coach? So
it's endless.
There's a whole conversation. So I'm just going to acknowledge that and put it to the side and just talk about this team for a second, which is to say, I really thought that they had some interesting transitions and features in some of their pair elements that are different than what we're seeing other teams do. And maybe that's because they're coming from a little bit of a different environment right now. I thought they had a really interesting entry into their death spiral. I thought that the lift that they're doing where she's totally vertically sitting on his hand is different than what we're seeing other teams do.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate that seeing some variety, and their short program I think is growing on me because I like that it's weird and angular, and they said something about it being I'm trying to remember what it was.
Candles flickering,
like a cartoon or something.
It was like candles flickering in the wind or something.
Yeah, and that's could be a totally subjective, whether people find that interesting or appealing or not. I'm kind of oh, I appreciate that you're trying something that's a little bit different. I thought that I enjoyed that more than their sort of tango in the season of everyone doing tangos. It doesn't hold up to a lot of other people's tangos, and so then that is less interesting to me.
And I will say, especially with the short, I know I've spoken a lot about intentional movements. I did feel like the choreography in the short was different in a way that kind of fit the different music. Because it was not my taste doesn't mean it's not good choreography. We all, again, is so subjective. We all like different things. But I will agree with you that we saw their interview and they were excited to be in Canada. Again, I like, Anna, that you acknowledged that. It's such a tricky avenue, and it really would branch out so far if we were to talk about it further. But anyway, they had some great things. They had some things that I would have liked to see a little bit differently, but we can't ignore their consistency throughout the competition and the practices, and they were rewarded for that at this event.
For sure.
And we mentioned entry, and I just wanted to go back. I know we already talked about the Polish team, but the entry into their group 4 lift in the short is so cool and worth a rewatch if you have time and you feel so inclined to do so. And when I was kind of studying for commentary for this event, I watched their short from, I don't think it was Nebelhorn. I think it was another competition this season. Maybe even that diamond spin one. But anyway, he missed her foot when he started for the entry and had to re-grab it. And I just think watching that reminded me, even as a pair skater, of how difficult that is. Because they do it so well that it looks super easy, that when you saw them kind of miss it, you're like, oh my God, that's incredibly difficult. Especially in a group where a lot of them will do a spiral entry. I'm not judging. I was one. We tried a difficult entry for half the season, wasn't worth it, got us the same points as a spiral, it went back to the spiral. So I always commend the teams that kind of stick with the hard stuff. And Annika and Robert also do a really difficult entry into their group 4.
I saw them working on that this summer, and it was not like the one where it's kind of on shoulder and then lifting up. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. And I was watching them work on it, and it was not, it was not working every time. They were really having to put in the effort to make that happen. So it was cool to see it look just easy.
Totally effortless. Yeah. Snaps for that, because there are options. There are easy options that lots of teams go for. And again, I'm not judging. I was one of those teams. I scored very well with a spiral entry into a group 4 lift. So I always really appreciate that innovation. And I like to see the evolution of it. Like I said, with seeing it, I mean, that was only last week. So it was obviously a fluke that they kind of missed it, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Should we get to the question that Laura had?
Yes.
I don't know if you have the thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, at the time that they vacated their third host spot, the only team that really was kind of in the running to receive it had done a competition and scored very, very low. So at the time, I could see the side of Skate Canada being like, no, we have a certain standard that you must uphold to be selected to do the Skate Canada competition. And the standard has not been met. So the spot is being vacated. With that being said, this team improved extremely quickly and could have done
like a week afterwards. Like a week after they gave the spot up.
Yes. And you know, we don't know, like perhaps they had been monitored and it looked the same as that competition. You know, like I don't believe that that Skate Canada made that decision lately, but I also don't know the deadline for when you can submit entries, but a couple weeks later, they did a great event. And then again in September, an even better event. And so they definitely could have been very well suited to be at this event if Skate Canada had waited a little while to select the team. I don't know the rules. I don't know if they can do that. With that being said, this team has been selected to go to Warsaw, so they will be sent out. Team I'm talking about is Fiona Bombardier and Benjamin Mimar. They're a new team composed of 2 members of 2 former teams. We've obviously seen Ben with his former partner Brooke at the World Championships, and Fiona is of course the daughter of José Chouinard and has been a great single skater and kind of is coming into her own in pairs. I'm sure for them it felt like such a huge bummer and such a huge opportunity and experience lost. I do not feel like it's going to be a big deal in the scope of their career based on what I've seen from them since then. And who knows, maybe even it lit a fire and then made them, I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm glad for them that they got Warsaw and they will have the opportunity to get the points that they need for 4 continents and worlds, because they will be very much in the running to be chosen for one of those spots.
And overall, Canadian Paris seems like it's in a strong situation. I mean, I feel like there's the sort of these 3 top senior teams and then a whole host of people that are kind of in that cusp of coming out of juniors at this point, or that stayed junior this year. So it's sort of like if we could just if everyone can get healthy, there's going to be a huge crop of people coming up behind.
Yeah, I really feel like in the next few years, we kind of have 4 right now that are in that top group. And then where Canada and the States are a little bit different is I feel like the States has a couple at the top and then they have kind of a large amount. Like there's a lot of volume in that kind of middle group. Whereas in Canada, I feel like we have 4 that could do well at Worlds. And then we have a lot of junior teams, as you mentioned, Anna. And last year we had 3 junior teams at the final.
Yeah.
This year, I think we have 2, but Ava and Yanni withdrew from their Grand Prix assignments. I don't know what's going on with them.
And
but
Martina and Charlie missed everything due to injury as well, I think.
That's right. Yeah, Martina and Charlie had a surgery and is just coming back. And so you're right, Anna, with juniors, we have a number of fantastic teams that have the longevity to be great senior teams. You know, sometimes you see a junior team and you're like, that team's great, but the reality of them being a great senior team is maybe not so high. I don't feel that with Canada's junior teams. I feel like they all could step into senior and do really well for themselves. So it's exciting times.
Yeah.
Talk about dance.
Shall we dance?
Lois, would you do it?
In gold, we have Piper Gillies and Paul Poirier. In silver, we have Marjorie Lajoie and Zachary Lagar. And in bronze, we have Evgeny Loporeva and Jeffrey Brousseau.
I
enjoyed the dance
programs.
I saw you tweet about that this morning, Anna, or yesterday maybe. So I knew what I was in for. I just want to talk about their 1 foot section in their free. I don't know, maybe I'm not as big of a dance fan as I should be, and maybe I should have seen this in the past, but their 1 foot section is on different feet. Do people do that very often? And I've just not seen it because I thought that was so cool.
I don't think it's very common. I think I have seen it occasionally, but it's not common.
Okay. I felt that was innovative and different, and we know Piper and Paul to be innovative and different, and twizzle sequence in the short when her leg goes over, like they really are not common. Thank you, Daniel. They really are doing cool stuff. But that one I rewatched this morning, and sometimes programs for me that don't have like an in your face story, and I believe I saw your tweet, Anna, that there is no story for the free dance.
Yeah.
Sometimes
They said there's no story, that they wanted it to be, that their idea was just that they wanted to show more like old fashioned dance style of like lots of holds and that kind of thing. So I was like, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to invent a story for them then. And so I was like, I feel like they're ballroom dancing on a sinking ship. I don't know where that came from, but that was like, I just had this image in my head. And then Rob Colling, who did the music for them, tweeted that he also he had an idea of them as like dancing in like a tango in the afterlife. So I just thought it was really interesting that they're like, we have a story, and everyone is like, let's invent you a story.
Yeah, well, how inspiring though that their skating brings that out in you. Like for me, that's different than somebody who doesn't have a story and we have no idea what's going on. You know, we're just like, yeah, some of that stuff was really, really good, but I have no idea what's happening. That's a really funny comment.
Oh my God.
But I was gonna say, sometimes when there's not an evident story, I need a couple rewatches to be like, what do I actually feel about this program? And I really do love it. I think I am a sucker for like, to tell you something about me that would tell you almost everything you need to know. I just love a rom-com, and I'll watch the same one I love 800 times. Like I think I am blissfully naive to just make me feel happy and good or devastated. You know, like I'm okay with that feeling too. But it's that kind of story that I really like. So Starry Starry Night was really impactful for me. Evita was really impactful for me. Wuthering Heights I freaking loved so much. Yeah. So this one, the music doesn't hit me in the same way, but that is because of my own like preferences of how I want to feel, not based on the fact that I don't think it is choreographically and executed superb. I love it so much.
Yeah, I think it's not that I dislike it. I think it's executed very well. They look great technically. I just feel a disconnect between a whiter shade of pale and a tango interlude in the middle of it. Okay. And their costumes very much say tango and do not say a whiter shade of pale to me. So it's just, I feel like there's two concepts, and I feel like they don't necessarily gel very well together, but they execute it very well, like in terms of technical ability. It's just, I'm just not there. Okay. in terms of cohesiveness of the program.
I knew nothing and know nothing about a whiter shade of pale, so that didn't affect me because my knowledge about that music is zero. You know what I mean?
I really like that music. I really like Procol Harum, and so that's partly, and I like Annie Lennox, and so I was like, and I saw this program was their exhibition, and it didn't have the tango section. So like I was surprised when I saw the tango section because I was not expecting that. And I love that they kept the sort of spiral long edge beginning and end to it, because I really liked that part of their exhibition. I think I just liked that it was weird and unexpected, and sometimes not that don't also love a like crescendo on the music and make me feel all of the feelings, but sometimes I think in ice dance I really enjoy when I can't guess what's going to happen next. And I think I was kind of tired when I was watching the free skates, and so some of the teams I was like, yeah, that's great, but that's kind of where I expected that was going to go. And the fact that I didn't know what was going to happen next at any point in the program made me feel really excited watching them. And I had that feeling with both the rhythm dance and the free dance. And I'm interested to see, just for my own personal taste, will I still like their rhythm dance as much on repeated watchings? Because sometimes they do something where I'm like, oh, that's so fun and interesting, and then I get kind of tired of the bit by mid-season. I loved their free skate last year with Wuthering Heights, and I feel like I've liked Piper and Paul's programs that were weird a little bit more than I've liked the ones where they were like telling me an obvious story, and that's again, personal taste, but I just thought I think I want for teams that have been around for a long time, and I felt this way about Chalk and Bates, I want them to show me something that is like interesting. Show me like what all of this experience, that you have, like, what are you going to say with it? And so I did get that feeling from Piper and Paul.
And to your point, Anna, like I'm talking about, wanting to feel, and that crescendo avenue can be seen as easier in a sense. Obviously, it depends on what you do around it, but you're going to hit I'm speaking in pair terms right now, but if you land a throw on a crescendo, it's going to hit. It's going to make people feel stuff, or same if you go up into a lift in ice dance on a crescendo. And so I appreciate the innovativeness and the creativity that it takes to still have that same impact with a different approach. And I think Piper and Paul are very good at that.
And as Melissa says in the comment there about the costumes for the rhythm dance, I got really disappointed when I saw those costumes for the rhythm dance because I'd seen the yellow and the pink ones from practice and I loved those. And I don't always love Piper and Paul's costumes, but I thought those were really fun. They reminded me of like ice cream colors and stuff. I thought they were great. And then they came out as like a lifeguard and a swimmer, and it was just kind of didn't hit the same as when I first saw those other costumes in practice. So I hope they use those ones.
They've already shown us 3 costumes for this rhythm.
3? Oh, I've only seen 2. There's been
apparently there were some scuba ones as well, but I never saw pictures of those ones. But apparently they were like scuba inspired ones.
Yeah. I was told that they have 4, and they will change
all
season because they are trying to go play on how Barbie and Ken change their clothes all the time. And so that is what they are trying to do with that. I too preferred the pink and yellow to the white and red, but I'm sure we'll see the pink and yellow at competition at some point.
And I really enjoyed Paul's costume with the cutout in the back. I wish I like it conceptually. I'm not sure that I like this actual execution of this costume, but I'm not enough of a costume designer to be able to pinpoint what would make it better. So not super fair critique to be like, but I like the weirdness. I like this sort of out of the box thinking of it, and that also that it's all red and not just black pants. I always appreciate when the men go for full colored costumes, even if it does mean that they have to put in more effort than just wearing the same black pants.
And with Piper on that team, that they're always like, it's very rarely going to be just the black pants. I know there was one year I can think of that he did that when she was all fancy pants, but I didn't mind it at all. I liked that it was different. I feel like the program itself is different, and so I like that the costume concept played into that as well. It didn't bother me, but I can understand for those folks who weren't as much of a fan, I could totally see why.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny. We have a Patreon Discord, which you can join if you join our Patreon. Shout out. And we were all like, we don't like it. And Anna kept coming in like, I love it.
Oh, really?
For all the weird stuff, for all the weird music.
Which is why when I tweeted, I was like, I guess nobody likes this. And then I had a bunch of people respond that they liked it. But I don't mind. I kind of like it when there's divisive, when people have strong opinions about programs in different ways, and that's okay for me. I felt, I came in and was like, I really like Chalk and Bates free dance as well, and everyone was like, oh, it's so boring, it's all the same, and I'm like, no, I thought it was super interesting and subtle, and it's just like you can see how the different things stand for different people.
Yeah, like opinions are great. Opinions are great as so long as people are being kind. Opinions are great.
Yeah. I do really like Marjorie and Zach's free dance. I was a bit like reserving judgment about Sound of Silence because that piece of music is very kind of overused in skating, not usually for ice dance. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I'm going to trust them because I usually like everything they do. So, I mean, yeah, obviously they had to have like a little bounce back after the mishap in the rhythm dance. Such an awkward fall. It was lucky it wasn't on an element, but it took them a while to get back into that program after that as well.
It took them more time, in my opinion, than it needed to take. Like, come on.
Yeah.
let's go. Like, let's get back into it. And I've seen that before from Zach at a team camp. And I think it has a visual effect that makes him appear as something he's not, like for me, when it takes that long, it doesn't look good. And I don't think that's indicative of who they are, but I also appreciate that, like, maybe you hurt yourself, maybe it doesn't make sense choreographically. But I saw somebody talk about how when Chalk and Bates fell in the rhythm dance, obviously different circumstance and different choreo, but they did pop right back into it, like, immediately. Whereas this was a huge disruption. And I saw Ben Augusto, who always tweets, and I follow his tweets about dance because I find him very educated, obviously. And he mentioned how somebody falling, who was it that fell in an element and lost like 7 points, but it wasn't as much of a disruption as this fall that was kind of like 1 point, but then a huge wait.
Emily and Ian fell in.
I was going to say Emily and Ian, with Ian falling on the twizzle.
Yes, that's the one. Was that the? It doesn't matter. Anyway, Ben was talking about how when you fall in an element, you lose 7 points, but it doesn't necessarily take you out of the program for a long time. And this lost 1 point, but then was very disruptive. And I'm not trying to harp on Marjo and Zach, because I really love Marjo and Zach. They are among my favorite dance teams in the world. Like, I'm waiting for this team to be on the podium at Worlds. I like them so much, so much. So please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I just wish that fall had him pop back in a little sooner. And I saw that they said she fell on that in practice, so it's going to be gone.
Yeah, they're going to get rid of it.
But I love them so much. I will say in Sound of Silence, I like the program more in the middle section where the music changes into the twizzles. I love that part. And the end is very impactful for me, more so currently than the beginning.
I want to see it live, because I had this feeling that I was expecting it to have a certain kind of impact, and it just didn't quite for me. And it's not something that I could pinpoint, what was missing necessarily. And so I was like, maybe it's just because like I said, maybe I'm just watching this and I'm tired, and it's the end. I've been watching a lot of skating, and so I'm feeling like not as easily moved by things right now. And so, like, I'm kind of reserving judgment on it at this point. But I also wasn't a huge fan of the Roses program last year, the first time I saw it. And then by the time I had seen it but then by the time I saw it at Worlds, I thought it was amazing. And so I think there was that sort of like gelling into a program and everything feeling intentional and feeling at its maximum that maybe just hasn't happened with this yet. And as they kind of fully embody it, I'm going to like it more.
I think as well, they're a team that takes a couple of competitions to kind of warm up to their programs. And obviously they had the disruption of Marjorie having another concussion and missed, I think, a couple of challenges that they were scheduled to go to. And it probably would have looked a lot more settled in by this point if they'd have had that more runtime with it.
Yeah, and I think also with Sound of Silence, I really like Sound of Silence, but as you mentioned, we don't see it in ice dance very often. And I think part of the reason for that is the music is so drawn out and the lyrics are so drawn out. And when they're having to do like a midline and they have to step, for me, that isn't always cohesive. But I mean, like I said, once they got to the twizzles and the final, I think actually after the twizzles was their diagonal step, if I'm not mistaken. And I felt like that made more sense to me. But I think similar to what Anna, you had said about Jason, I feel this way about Marjo Zach. Like, I just like them so much. I'm their biggest fan, I swear. And so I think I have high standards for them because they usually, whatever they do is so impactful for me. And they really haven't missed for me in the last X amount of seasons that I've been watching them. Like, they always just do something that I love so much. And as we know from this team, they are extremely versatile. Like, they do the cha-cha slide and something slow and lyrical in the same season. And both of them make so much sense. So I think because of that, I'm harder on them than some of the other teams, perhaps.
I still have this dream of like, because I know obviously Zach plays the piano. I still would love him to have like an original composition or whatever for them to skate to at the Olympics or something. I feel like that would
So
be
cool.
just so impactful.
Yes. Like kind of like Eric Bradford, actually. Like that
Yeah.
was so impactful when Eric and Megan did that. It was so cool. People loved it. I agree. But also that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty
But with
sure
all the
Zach
new
is
like
a
all the
prodigy.
new
Like,
music
surely-
laws coming in,
Yeah,
maybe
he's
worth.
definitely like a prodigy in piano. He could definitely. I'm sure he can do it.
And then he won't be able to complain that he didn't like the music and that other people chose it, and then he's grown on him. So
You know what? This team is just so. I mean, we could say that for Piper and Paul as well. They just are so unequivocally who they are, and I just love that so much about them. Have you ever seen that meme of two houses on the street and one is like
Yes.
very colorful
Yes.
and one is
Yes.
black, and they're like Marsha's.
I remember
black.
posting that. I think it was like, I can't remember if it was last season or the season before. I posted that about Molly Langahan and Dmitry Razgulyev's
Okay.
costumes, because he was just wearing black and she was in this like bright pink costume. It's just like
Yeah.
all the men were just wearing black that season. It's just like, and so the women are all this like bright pink sparkly house, and then it's just men
Yeah.
wearing black.
Sometimes I feel that about Marsha Zach. And Marsha was one of my roommates in Beijing, and I really didn't know her very well until then because she's much younger than me and was mostly in junior as I was in senior. But she is as kind as she seems on the ice and a very funny person. And anyway, I just, if you can't tell, I really like this team. I really want them to do well.
I feel like for us, it's also we are hitting our 5th or 6th year now as like
think we're on
media,
6th.
and like we are starting to see them grow up. So it's
Yes.
starting to get to the point where you're
Yeah.
like, these are the babies we
Yeah.
saw 6 years ago, and now they're all grown up. It must be even weirder for you, of course.
Well, honestly, you probably knew them better than I did beforehand because when I was competing and I watched skating for sure, but now I make it more of a job, especially through commentary, to kind of know more about what's going on. And so, yeah, I too feel like, you know, they're adults now and are very capable of incredible things. And I really think their future's bright. I'm going to stop talking about Marja Zach. Who's next?
Who else was there?
Well, so Evgenia and
French
Jeffrey,
woman.
I thought were really strong here. I enjoy both of their programs. I like their ridiculous rhythm dance. The Rasputin is so fun, and it's also
so fun.
very sassy. Their free skate, I loved parts of, but overall the music I was kind of struggling with, and I think I'm going to stop saying that because I was tired. I was finding it especially a little bit snoozy in the middle, and then the techno part started. I was like, whoa. That aside, they have so many cool moves. There's one lift that they do where he's got his like head on her forehead, and it looks like she's like, it's like how is she like floating in the air? Like when
How are
is
you
there
doing
even
that?
yeah. So I was impressed with the creativity of it, definitely.
And kind of always, I feel like they always are innovative and unique. And I feel like we say now because I think.
There we go.
Oh, bye.
No, got it.
Oh,
Let's
hello.
go.
Did not like what I said. I feel like so many of the teams on the circuit in ice dance right now are super innovative, but I really like this team. I think they are trying to kind of break barriers of what is normal or expected in ice dance, and I love that so much. I'm always kind of on board with anyone who wants to be themselves and try something different. And they went kind of viral last year with their exhibition program. That's really funny. But I really like them. I love their short dance. I think it's, as you mentioned, Anna, sassy and quirky and interesting, and they make people talk about them with the choices that they make, and I think that can never really be a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's great. I was really happy for the Tashlers. I thought that they did so well here. I love this free dance. It's got so many they always do so many interesting things, but I feel like this year, especially, they're coming out with the like, yeah, we are different. You know, make of that what you will. We are who we are. And I really appreciate that from them.
Yeah, I agree. I actually was going to the Tashless next. I feel like I'm getting a little bit emotional. Can you see it? I saw an interview from them earlier where they spoke about how some things that were said about them in the past, and Natalie in particular, how it just affected her so deeply. And I just, first of all, I hate that so much, but I am just so proud. I don't know them at all. I don't know if I've ever even met them in person, but I'm just so proud of the way that they have rebounded from that and done, it appears to have, they have done the work personally and introspectively, and have come back just so much stronger. And I just can't stress enough that there is a place for everybody, and she is so special and powerful and strong and delicate and beautiful and all the freaking things. And I just hate so much that she read or heard those things about herself. And I'm really proud of them as a team for being so freaking awesome. And I think if she was any different, she would not have the same special qualities, or perhaps not have the same. She is special because of who she is, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I hope that she knows that and continues to be her badass self that delivers fantastic edge work and just awesome material. Big fan.
Agreed.
Sorry for going
Agreed. Completely. Yeah. No, I was really happy for them. And I thought that even though I actually really like Amelia and Vadim's programs and their skating, I was glad that in this competition, I felt like it was correct judging.
Yes.
The Toshlers went ahead of them, and I wasn't sure where that was going to be. That was one thing I got wrong in fantasy skating. Going into this, trying to make guesses about where momentum was going to take people.
Sure.
But I felt like that was absolutely right for the skating of the night.
Yeah. And I do like Amelia and Vadim. Wasn't that I didn't like, and I know that's not what you're saying either, Anna, but I agreed definitely with that. And I think Amelia is really exciting, and that team is exciting because of their unique skill set, because she was such a fantastic free skater. I like that they bring that into their ice dance. I think it makes them really different. And I mean, she hasn't been a dancer for very long, so it seems as though the improvement just continues to be so steep. Yep. So they're also a really exciting team to watch. Sad for Emily and Ian here.
Oh yeah,
that was really a bummer. I liked that team at Worlds. It was a bummer for them at Worlds too. I don't know if you guys remember. You all remember what happened with the fall in the rhythm dance there, and then failing to qualify for the free dance. But I do really like this team. I think that they have some really fantastic qualities, and hopefully kind of work out whatever it is that makes them get so much tighter under pressure. We know it's so much better.
You know, and speaking of judgments of people, I just wanted to say that, like, while you can absolutely point out disparities in skills between a team, I really hate it when people start talking about, like, oh, one skater should ditch the other, and, like, you know, and so much better, especially when it's talking about like how special an ice dance man is or a pair man is and how they should have a better partner. I'm just like, just don't. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes with people and what is or isn't working to make a partnership. And so, like, yes, I think that probably Ian has maybe better skating skills as a base level than Emily does, and I think that they have some really special qualities as a team, and I love their free skate, and I really, I know they brought it back, and I really want to see them skate it like clean and wonderfully, because I think it's really special, and I think it suits them really well.
Yeah, I really agree with you, Anna. I really do feel like people should have the freedom to say their opinion. I think sometimes where it gets a little bit sticky is saying that you prefer this person skating over that person that's totally fine, but we just don't know what's going on with people and why they choose the things they choose. And also sometimes I see someone have an opinion on what someone must do or should do in their personal life or even in their skating life, but a decision that would affect them in a big way. And I just kind of think, where do you think you get off saying that? And what makes you feel like this person is going to take that and bring it, I am rambling a little bit, but I totally I'm on board with having your opinion, but I think we also have to acknowledge that we really just don't know the ins and outs of what goes on in people's partnerships. Like with myself and my former partner, Dylan, a lot of people were, this is going back 10 years now, but a lot of people were really upset that we split and they couldn't understand because we were fourth in the world, XYZ, whatever. It was absolutely the right choice for me. It was the hardest choice. And I never shared why, the reason why in the public, because I didn't feel like airing dirty laundry was the right choice. But the general public did not know the reason and continue to not know. And let's not make some, it's not because Dylan's not awesome. Dylan is awesome. Just a preface on that. But it's just, I don't know. I feel often like, yes, of course, have your opinions, but also acknowledge that you'd have to walk a mile in someone's shoes before you know what is the correct choice for them.
There's so many things that go into making a good partnership that might not be obvious from one competition also.
And people are starting to make the choices that benefit them from a mental health perspective too. I feel like we used to make a lot of choices just because it was the right thing for figure skating or for the sport. And I find now more often people are making choices that are best for them in their life, which I do believe is correct. And if we're talking about someone having more skills, like people used to say that about Piper and Paul. I don't know if you remember. And look what we would have missed out on if that team ceased to exist, So anyway.
I mean, people have been saying probably for over a decade at this point that like Marco and Charlene, their height difference is too small, like, they and everything. And they're one of the best teams in the world. Like,
totally.
Exactly. It's
and if they'd have just like dumped each other that early on in the partnership, people don't like our height difference, then we never would have got to see their wonderful skating skills and how far they've come together.
Absolutely. Great point.
So I really hope that Emily and Ian can figure out like whatever competition situation this is bringing for them, or if this is just two flukes that we happen to be seeing a pattern.
Totally.
But I really want good things for them. And I am not as much of a fan at this point of their rhythm dance as I am of their free dance, but I'm gonna maybe it'll grow on me over time. And just circling back to Amelia and Vadim, their final like acrobatic thing they do in their lift, I can't even describe, is so cool. That I really I'm like, what else are you gonna do? It's amazing. Also, Stefan Lambiel told me that he thinks they're going to be Olympic champions in the future. So
wow,
interesting.
High praise from
not this time, but
expert.
Everyone in Iceland has to wait their turn.
America, so I asked him what he thought about everybody, and he refused to give me any specific opinions about the teams that he had been watching, but told me that he thought. So I'm like, okay.
That's really funny.
Also, shout out to Alicia and Paul, obviously having to do a back-to-back, and the unfortunate fall that Alicia had last week that dropped them from 4th to 10th. And much more solid this week, Obviously, I think a bit of a tougher field here in terms of, everyone kind of, not that everyone was in their places, but like it would have been harder for them to like say like maintain that 4th that they'd like got in the rhythm dance last week. But they did a very good job, and obviously probably exhausted after competing pretty quickly because they had a challenger not too long ago as well. So.
And not a lot of experience doing that. Like someone like Ilya would have maybe not experienced doing back-to-back Grand Prix. I don't know that he's done that, but more competitive experience to kind of lean on for that. Whereas Alicia and Paul are fairly new on the circuit. And I thought they showed well considering they had that challenge of going back-to-back.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm very aware of the time. I think
I know we've gone 2 hours here.
it's 2 hours.
Sorry, I feel like we did that last time. Do you not do that with other guests? I gotta stop saying
Other
so
guests
much.
tend to like
Sorry.
say, "I can give you an hour," and then they leave.
Yes.
We're very grateful.
And I think you said you have to leave at 12, and I don't want to like.
I was being 12. 12 gives me a little buffer, but yeah. I appreciate it.
I think any final thoughts on Skate Canada that we did not touch on? Anything that you want to wrap with?
I think I said everything. I feel like I might have said a little bit too much today, but
I love that.
I just know it all comes from being just like the biggest fan of the sport and having big feelings about it. But thank you for my art.
My final thought will be what we have on the slideshow of the Curse of the Moose.
You don't have to give your final thoughts.
The moose is terrifying. The moose is terrifying.
The hockey team that plays there are called the Mooseheads, I believe.
Yeah.
So
And apparently they did really badly on their road trip that they were on while this competition was happening. So it's the curse followed them around as well.
The moose was jinxing them.
A cannon that goes off at noon at in Halifax. Halifax is such a cool city. If you've not been, I really highly recommend. But I saw some tweets about how the cannon was freaking people out a little bit.
I love Halifax.
I have one of those
in feeling
Columbus,
a little sad that I
in Ohio as well.
Person.
There was a lot of information about.
Yeah, I missed Lois on that one.
Yeah, they have a cannon. That the hockey team, the Columbus Blue Jackets, they have a cannon that goes off every time somebody scores a goal, and just like people get terrified.
Yeah, I guess.
Like visiting teams are just like, oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so. But Anna, I was also wishing that I was there. Anna and I worked together actually in Halifax once a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But it's just such a great city. And I'm glad that some of the world got to experience it because it's one of the gems of Canada, I think.
It made me, I was saying to my mom, I was like, we should just go on a random road trip to Halifax sometime. Cause like I've only ever gone when I've gone to skate and I've been exhausted and we never explore anything more than like, you know, a block from the Airbnb that we're staying in.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Actually see more of the city sometime.
Yeah. And when I go and work there, it's not actually in Halifax. It's like half an hour outside. So I feel like I don't experience as much of Halifax as I should also. But anyway. Props to Halifax, great city, great people.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please come back. This is always amazing. It's always
thank you for having me. Sorry for talking so much.
I will let Kirsten go. Please, Lois and Anna, don't leave yet.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
I love having her. She always talks amazing. So much. I don't have to do anything. So, do we have any more takes on ice dance? Because I think there are a couple of teams we haven't mentioned, but if there's nothing.
I love Kenya. I'm not necessarily a fan of the Corella program, unfortunately, but I love them. So
I like it, but I want to see it develop. So that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, we talked about the moose. And quick preview for the Grand Prix.
I was literally going to go and find I'm so not used to the new ISU website. Okay, I'm finding the lineups.
Okay.
Okay.
Please pay attention for your next fantasy skating picks.
Also, Daniel,
I haven't done the
agree.
preview yet.
I like Harrison Chan, and I thought that they had a hard time here. I think that they are better than their performances at this competition really showed.
So we can assume going into France that Adam is the probable one to watch. I would be surprised if anybody was able to beat him, but you never know what kind of skate somebody could have on the day. Lucas has had a very strong start to his season at Challengers. Interested to see where Boyang's at, because obviously he hasn't competed yet this year. I thought it was very interesting that he wasn't at Shanghai, because he was last year. I saw some rumors that, like, posted, I think on Reddit the other day, that they want him to be mostly coached in China now instead of in Canada. So I don't know quite what's going on with that. but that's, I mean, to see how that's impacting his training. It's a very interesting men's field because like it feels like anything could happen, but you could also get some really like standout skates. Like everyone could be really technically proficient, or they could just have a flop fest.
Yeah, agreed.
Like Shaderov's had a really good start to his season. Momola's been doing all right recently, although he did fall on his quad lats at Nepola. Selevko's not had the best start to his season, but that he has that potential. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for Koshiro and Kazuki to be at competition, and they're both here, right? Did I get that right?
Yes, I think so. Yes, Koshiro and Kazuki.
I feel like they always get up to something when they're together, so I hope they have a good time at their competition together.
I don't trust the new ISU website, considering they have 13 women listed. They have not taken Maya Mazzara off of their list. Because I know Clemens is on there, but Clemens has replaced Maya Mazzara at Grand Prix de France. So I think she has an ankle injury.
I get the ISU wanting to make like website for corporate documents and things that are easy to find, website for the public that's easy to access the skating, and actually
don't change it in the middle of the freaking season.
I get the concept. Why are they doing it right now?
I know, it's a mess. I have the Warsaw Cup like entry list from before when they hadn't updated their website, and you go to the Warsaw page now and it doesn't have the entry list like on the page. So I've still got the entry list from prior, but they haven't updated it yet and haven't put the list out yet. And I'm like, please stop. Just stop.
But
Women
shout out
obviously.
I do want to praise one thing though from the ISU is that they are putting out the individual programs on the YouTube channel, and they were not doing that for a while last season. They were only doing the top 6, and now they have everybody, and I'm very happy that they're doing that again. So that
agreed.
One good step.
Rygaber is obviously coming off a win at Skate America. However, whether she can win this one is another matter, because Cheon's had an amazing start to the year. Like every single competition, I think she scored over 200. Amber also amazing challenger win. So yeah, like it's wild.
Yeah.
Russell asked, is Luna there? No, Luna pulled out. She has been replaced by Sarah Everhart, who's also had an incredible start to the season. Maybe potential for the podium, but this is such a strong field here that you never know. I'm obviously always hoping the best for Mai Mihara. She's had not the best skates like the last couple of seasons, coming off injury and stuff. But I love her. And Rion's sometimes a little inconsistent, but has the potential. So yeah, it's really, really interesting field at France.
Yeah, it's a very strong women's field. There's like 9 out of the 12 people are potential podium.
Exactly. Also, the Uzbek pair team are going back to back here. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects them, because obviously going from Canada to France is quite a journey.
This is a tough, we've got Sarah Nicolo, Rebecca Filippo, Minnie and Nikita, Leon Trent.
Yep.
Alyssa and Misha from Mohamed Trifonov.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I don't want to say the French teams are probably going to come last, but they probably are. It's just such a strong field.
I know. I'm really excited though to I feel like some of these pair teams though are the Italians and the German team. I'm like, ooh, I've been waiting. Like, you guys are like, I know it's funny because it's only the 3rd Grand Prix, but I'm like, I've been waiting. Well, you guys haven't been on yet. So I think we'll have a better sense of where the overall international standings are going to be. Well, for all of the events, but I feel like this. I'm waiting to see.
I feel like it's almost like harder for the Italians to now like make the final. Now they're going up against each other. If obviously it was supposed to be Kaori and AnythingGOEs at Skate Canada, but if one of the other Italian teams had been there, they probably would have guaranteed themselves a podium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This feels like
I
a much
think-
more competitive than last week. Yeah.
Yeah. In dance, it not that it's not competitive. I would say foregone conclusion, Marco and Charlene are winning this. And then it's just going to be really interesting. Obviously, Emily and Ian going back to back here, which
Yep.
is not the best, especially with travel. Leo and Artem had a really strong showing at Skate America for their first competition, but I don't know if they'll get as much. Not that the scores were generous, but obviously it was an American team in an American competition. So not that it's not necessarily not going to be as generous in France, but that's going to be interesting. Alison and Sol obviously already won a challenger, so they're probably going to be on the podium, as well as Evgeny and Jeffrey, who also have to go back to back.
I think
So,
that'll
yeah.
be an interesting matchup between them.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be very interesting to see who gets bronze at Europeans this year for ice dance.
Yes.
Like, it could be Lithuania, it could be France, it could be Georgia, based on the scores that came out of Slovakia this weekend. It could be Spain. It's very interesting. Like, everyone's
Finland.
kind of
I
fighting
feel
with it.
like
It could be
they've
Finland.
had
I do feel like they are struggling score-wise right now.
Yeah.
The momentum's kind of pushing in other directions, but
Which
as
is
long as Yulia
frustrating
doesn't
because I
fall.
like both of their programs so much this year.
Exactly. Where are
Um,
Europeans? I do not remember where
Tallinn.
Europeans are this year. Tallinn. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so nobody's.
No one quite gets that's like split the difference between the Finnish and Lithuanian home advantage, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like Switzerland, or it's like neutral ground. Like, who knows who's going to win there?
We'll see if it helps with Selevko's, because that is
Yes.
the home.
Yes.
I mean, and Nina, and I mean, we've got other teams that are other skaters that are trying for that home advantage. I'm very excited for
But
Tallinn.
Other than like a clear winner, it's a very strong field, and that like you can't pinpoint necessarily who's going to come last.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Very interesting
field.
I have to jump in a second. Let's talk about fantasy.
Fantasy. Okay, I'm gonna go by because we talked a lot today already. Thank you so much to everybody who stuck around for so long. Again, I picked my favorite names. Insert Mark ice dance warm up noise here.
When people are nearly colliding with each other.
Yeah,
I had to explain. No, I don't want to make the noise. I had to explain to you what Kamira, our tummy ache survivor, meant last week, and that like he had like some abdominal issues last year at several competitions.
I do feel bad for picking this name, but it made me laugh so much each time I read it, so I had to. And I'm sure it's in good intent. And then last group anxiety, just because, yeah, that's a mood. Yeah. Always. Oh, there's a question.
Olympic qualifying. Do we
know
that they
reduced
the
number of entries in singles for 2026?
I do have a document somewhere about it, and I do not remember what it says off the top of my head. And of course, I went to open it, and the ISU 404 not working page.
I have a lot of questions about Olympic qualifying and what's going on with that. So let's talk about that in the future when we
we'll talk about that another time. Maybe in like our World's preview or something. We can delve into that.
And then also apparently Mark will do commentary this week, by the way.
I think I heard that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the results. Again, this time, not that many people won, which I was very happy about because I don't have to screenshot as much. So congratulations. The white chip disaster is back. The person was here last year. I remember that name. I remember Lois looking up the information.
I had to look up what that meant because I didn't know what that meant.
Doing well once again. It has to be a person who knows a lot about skating or who's very lucky.
See, I think I know a lot about skating, and I am terrible at fantasy skating. Like
I'm not usually bad at it. I'm terrible at it this year.
So
you did really well last year, Lois, right? But this year it's a mess.
Yeah, I was like always in like the top 10. Like I'm just not there this year. I'm terrible.
Yeah. So this is women again. Not that many got it right, but people who got it right, congratulations. And then lots of pairs. 180 people won pairs. I'm just going through
You actually
these.
screenshot it this time, though. I again
Yeah, I
did not
did.
win pairs because I panicked. I'm so annoyed at myself because I did pick the Australians, and then I heard about Hector twisting his ankle in practice, and I was like, I'm going to change to the Canadians, and the Canadians came last.
Melissa is saying maximum 29 athletes each for singles in 2026. And more ice dance winners. And now we can get to the overall. Oh no, we have the overall. Skate Canada. Congratulations, Mai Mihara, OGM. You almost got the 11 points from the highest possible score. So
Yeah.
Wow.
and the white ship disaster and Kao Miori, our tummy ache survivor, is third. That's why I had to pick it. I had to. And now I've added up the scores. So these are the top 10 for men overall so far.
Ugly Oilers.
A lot of people got to 10th place. I know that will change. With each competition, we will get like a more diverse ranking. But also, if you keep up and keep submitting, you can get a very high ranking in overall, even if you mess up like one or two competitions. Pairs overall. Lots of people. They all get
Pairs has been pretty good to guess so far. Just I didn't do it.
Apparently, that's been very easy. And then we have ice dance overall. And overall. Yes. And again, shout out to our Patreon supporters. We have one person at producer tier. And if you want to support us, you can join for as little as $1 and then you get, or like €1 or £1 or something. And then you get access to the Discord, which is a lot of fun. We talk a lot on there. And you also get
my scouting report and I can't remember what tiers. I think I don't know if it's just junior or senior that get early access to interviews that we release and stuff. So, yeah,
we have a bunch of them.
I have to go back to work, friends.
Yes.
Bye.
Have fun working. Bye bye.
I think we're pretty much done anyway, aren't we?
Yes, I think we all have to leave anyway. It's late. I mean, it's 8, but it feels late.
I have to go and eat some food.
See everyone same
time. I don't remember who our guest is next week. We should have.
I forgot
Anna about that before she left, or before they left.
We should have prepared better. But we have guests.
I don't. We do have guests usually. I don't remember who we have lined up for next week.
So we are very well prepared, but also it's been going on for a long time now. I love having guests to talk a lot. It's always a joy when we don't have to like ask a lot of questions or interfere. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Again, subscribe, follow us on all social media platforms, join our Patreon. We appreciate all of your support in any way.
Subscribe.
Doesn't matter. Thank you so much and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.